Peace was good, was good. I just recorded a pretty sad, kind of serious video. So I wanted to record something a little less biting, I guess you would say. And a lot of people for years and years and years, I would say since 2018, have told me to make books, write about, talk about, make a podcast about talk about relationships, talk about love, talk about, because my perspective is so different than the majority of people because I feel like a good amount of men are still virgins or are like borderline incels. Like one woman ever has had sex with them, and that might be their wife, and she's just kind of like on the fence about it still. There's another group of men who have never touched the vagina, have never seen it, don't even know what it looks like outside of like scientific diagrams, and now they're afraid of vagina. They're afraid of women. There's a good amount of men that hate women. And then there's a good amount of men who see a benefit in women, but they want women to essentially just be their sex slaves. So I'm in none of those schools of thoughts. I am a man who had great relationships with women, been allowed in a lot of female safe spaces and circles, and just kind of got to see women for who they are, not these everlasting, ephemeral, you know, endless sources of love and sunshine and joy. They're people. They're just human like you and me. They're just people. Every single woman is completely fucking different. Every single man should be completely different. I would say men have a greater pressure towards consensus than women because if men aren't in consensus of who is the boss, then the person who wants to be the boss gets really pissy and upset and he makes everyone else's life a fucking problem because he's a toxic douchebag. And that's sadly what most women attempt to emulate when they think about masculinity. So when it comes to relationships, this is specific to one person who posted something or asked me something on Instagram. I remember what you said inside my brain, but I can't say it all out loud. But it was a post basically about narcissistic mothers or narcissistic men and how narcissistic men's biggest supporters of mom. Your mom can also be one of your biggest adversaries as well. And in that case, that's what we were discussing. It's like, then the dude's not a narcissist because he has legitimate reasons as to why he does not like women. He has legitimate reasons as to the things women do and firsthand experience. I feel like it's hardcore misogyny when it's a delusion about what women are like and it's completely off base and inaccurate about the things that women do. I feel like it's worth a conversation if this man has a fair critique and a fair experience with women. So she was asking about her husband boyfriend situation and how the dude has a wide open mother wound, a very large mother wound. And we were discussing like what I set up until that point was basically two things. One, you both need individual therapy for the reason is that he needs therapy because he's the one that is wounded. And you're traumatized because he's bleeding on you. And he's bleeding on you from this mother wound. He's bleeding on you from this woman wound. And all you're trying to do is heal him. But the issue is that if someone has a knife in their back and you're trying to pull the knife out, two things. It's going to hurt like hell when you pull that knife out. But two, that knife in his back is the only thing keeping him alive. If you pull the knife out of his back, he's going to bleed out and he's going to die. You don't think about that shit. You don't think about that shit when you try to quote unquote help people. But helping men is a lot different than helping women. Women women heal when you let them hear themselves. When you let a woman speak and you let her speak her mind, she's able to heal because she's able to hear her thoughts out loud. She's able to see people's reaction to them, and she's able to see this shit don't work in the wild. All right, so I'm gonna have to either keep those thoughts to myself or I'm gonna have to change how I think because this shit ain't gonna work out. What does not help is that a lot of men don't listen to women, so you don't allow women to go through the process of personal accountability. You don't allow them to go to the process of self-development because you're not even letting them speak to begin with. You can't even let them hear themselves, basically hear their own thoughts, to process their own feelings. If you're dealing with a narcissistic man, he's doing too much time trying to deny what you feel, trying to put up with a wall to it and ignore it, and then eventually you're gonna have to leave or cheat or some shit like that because this conversation that desperately needs to happen is not being happened. It, excuse me, it keeps occurring and it's unresolved. Women do the same shit though. And I would say with men, he would probably get very distant from you. Women will will try to cause a fight, try to cause a fuss. She will force things to a point of conflict, even if she's in the wrong, even if it was completely unnecessary and uncalled for. Because with men, when you bring things to that point, there's a chance that we might fight. Women don't have any connotation of that. And not to the say, I don't really know how many fistfights between women resulted in a woman dying. I can very clearly see a lot of professional fights with men that end up with men dying. And those are professional fights, not even street fights. The level of aggression, the level of strength and power is completely fucking different. I've seen women get humiliated in public fighting other women. I haven't seen too many women kill each other off of a fist fight alone. Men kill each other when they fight. So we're talking about hopefully a non-narcissistic man. She said he doesn't. The reason I had to make the video, this is all recap, because I had to recap all this shit first. I had to think about all this shit to begin with, and it took quite a while to get to this point. So that's 7 minutes right there to actually address the real problem now. She doesn't want to go to therapy. So the suggestion was you go to individual therapy, same-sex therapist. He finds a male therapist, she finds a woman therapist. You guys go to individual, because what happens when you go to couples therapy is that it's very easy for it to become a third wheel situation, for it to become two sides against the other. And the issue is that you have to live every day. Therapy is 1 hour a week. You have to live with this person every single day. 1 hour a week of, well, the therapist said, the therapist said, the therapist said, and that's not, the therapist only got to how far it could get to. Again, 7 minutes it took to get to this point. Now we could talk about a solution. So this is the same idea that you need to have when you're dealing with these people. If your partner is the type of person who avoids having conversations, and I don't mean like they'll turn a conversation into a debate or an argument or a fucking screaming match. I mean someone who avoids having conversations, that's a red flag. You're not going to be able, if you can't talk about dinner without it being an argument, if you can't have very simple discussions without this person getting aggressive or getting louder, there's something seriously fucking wrong with that person. There's something, if every topic with this person is a shot to their ego or a shot to their pride, or they have to try to put some sense of dominance over you, you need to get the fuck, male or woman, you need to get the fuck away from that person. That person is mentally fucking sick. They are more than likely a narcissist. They have some psychopathic fucking traits in there, but that's not going to stop. It's not. I have a very domineering personality, but my domineering personality was in being a servant leader. So I'm at least going to do everything I'm asking of you, and I'm going to do it with you. I'll do it alongside you to ensure it gets done and gets done properly. I'm not just going to gaslight you and yell at you and scream at you to do something that I'm not going to do first and foremost. And I'm not going to sit there and watch and critique you doing it if I'm not doing it right by your side. The only reason I'm going to critique you is because I'm doing it right next to you and I'm doing it right. And I'm watching you do it and you're doing it incorrectly. That's the only reason I'm going to correct you. I'm not just going to correct you to just have you do shit my way because it's emotionally fucking satisfying for me. That's a tyrant. That's a fucking crazy person. That's a manipulative motherfucker. If someone's entrusting you to do a job, you got to do the job your way. If someone is entrusting you to do the job that they hired you to do their way, you got to do it their way. These are the two differences here. Some men come into a relationship and they don't have any requirements for what they want from a woman. They know that they need a woman in their life. They're not sure what kind of woman they need in their life. And either it's going to be a very hard lesson that they need to learn, or it's going to be a very mundane decades of learning how to love each other, getting to know each other, and dealing with a lot of miscommunications that turn into arguments. If not, if they're not willing to learn how to love you, and they're not willing to meet the requirements that you have, is that a relationship that you want to be in? So before you talk about what can I do to heal him, before you heal somebody else, before you help somebody else, are you in a position to do so? Is helping them, if you're swimming down the stream right now and there's a waterfall coming up and someone's going, help, help, I lost my oar, I only have one oar. And you're like, oh, I got two. Oh, I got two, I can give you one. And now they have two and you have one and now you fall off the waterfall. Second off, does the person want to be helped? You're sitting there, you're rolling by, the person's drowning and they're panicking and they're drowning and they're panicking and they're not screaming help, and you try to help them out, they'll pull you in the water with them. They'll get in your canoe, push you out the canoe. You know? If someone wanted to heal from their trauma, they would have done so without you having to tell them. I get you would like to believe that these people that you love and you care about don't realize that they're traumatized. The reality is that most of these people take a great amount of pride in their trauma. They internalize their trauma and then they repeat and they replicate their trauma onto other people because they want to feel how the abuser felt. They want to feel like the person who fucked up their life felt because they feel like they're going to gain some sense of power in it. Rather than admitting what happened to them was wrong, healing from what was wrong, and fixing their mistakes and doing better within their own lifetime, a lot of these people take a great amount of power in introducing their trauma to other people and only being around other traumatized people to normalize their trauma. When you don't normalize your trauma, you don't habituate yourself to trauma, you don't internalize your trauma, you don't replicate your trauma, and you don't accept trauma, you can't have anything but dysfunctional relationships with these people because these people are nothing but dysfunctional. You can't have a positive relationship with a negative person because this person is dedicated to negativity. I know you would like to believe if you just shine some light in this person's life, they will treat you better, but that is not the case. I know you would love to believe that if you just understand your value, these people would treat you better, but that is not the case. The reality is that these people benefit and exploit your lack of value. Whatever your value is, they will devalue you because they benefit from devaluing you. That is how a lot of these people work. Do they want to be healed? Do they want to be helped? Can you afford to help them? If the answer is no to all three of those, then you need to get the fuck out of that situation. You need to go. Male or woman. If it's a woman, you need to. If it's a woman, it's even worse because the law is going to correct men. Reality, if you have a father, if you have brothers, if you have cousins, they will correct the man who mistreats you. Reality will correct any mistakes that a man makes because, like I began this by saying, a great deal of men do not get to procreate at all. A great deal of men do not have children. They do not have women in their lives. Women don't even find them attractive. So they're already in a position where they're going to have to change a great deal about themselves adjust and address a great deal about themselves to even get to a point in which they can mate, get into a relationship with a woman, maintain a relationship with the woman. And then there's the constant pressure that she's going to cheat with another person. So most men have no choice but to constantly stay competitive, to constantly get better, to constantly improve, to maintain the relationship. The issue in a lot of these cases is that women do not. There is no pressure on women to fix, self develop. They have a vagina. And they could find someone who despises them and doesn't hate them and that will take care of them because they have a vagina. They will find someone who will sleep with them for money because they have a vagina. They won't find someone who respects them. They won't find someone who genuinely loves them. They won't find anyone who cares about them because people that really love you and really respect you and really care about you have standards for you. People that really care about you, really love you, and accept you have boundaries for you because they realize the limit to how much you can do and cannot do. These people thrive upon people who do not give a fuck about them because they can be as fake as they want to be. They can pretend to be whoever the hell they want to be, and they're never going to question as long as whatever the transactional benefit of that relationship is completed. They don't care about your personal life. They don't care about what you're going through unless it's entertainment for them. They don't care. They don't. They seriously do not even a little bit. You care. You care about your own life. This person who is drowning in the middle of the ocean does not care about their life. This person who has one oar does not care about their life. If they did, they would have held on to both. They knew how important it was. They knew not to go into the ocean. Who the fuck does that? They knew better. So you're going to try to help someone who got themselves into a terrible situation to prove how good of a person you are. You might be the narcissist as a woman then. You're dating a guy who you know has gone through trauma, you know he's gone through issues, and this is the idea of him not being a narcissist. He's just a guy who had a rough life like most men. Like most men. He's just a dude with a rough life. And your sole contribution to this man's life is more stress, more pressure, more arguments, more criticism, more demeaning, more devaluation, more, you're just going to give him more of all the problems that he already had. And you're going to fix your mouth to say that you love him because of what he gives you. You might be a narcissist as the woman. If you are aware that your man is going through struggle, if you're aware that your man is going through strife and you make his life harder for him, you are the problem. If you are already aware that your man is stressed out, your man is already going through problems, and you want to argue with him, you're the problem as the woman. There is nothing, it does nothing, I don't care if the dude calls you a bitch. It does not matter what the dude does. If you're already aware that he's at a 7 out of 10, and you're going to do everything possible to push him above a 10, he's going to hit you. He's going to hit you. He's the only response he has to anyone in that situation is to hit you, or you have to date a man who would never defend himself, never. And that's what a lot of you women find, unfortunately, is a man who would never defend himself, never stand up for himself, never call you out on your bullshit. That's what a lot of you seem to like, is a simp or a trick. No, it's if he's already at a 7 out of 10, you need to at least bring him down to a 5 so you can have a reason. You can have a reasonable conversation at a 5. Anything over a 5, you can't have anything but an argument and a shouting match at. Anything above a 5 is an argument and a shouting match. Anytime that you approach a man and you want to have a conversation, you need to bring this guy down to a 2. You got to bring this guy down to a 0. You got to bring this guy down to a -5 because he's probably already at a 5 or a 7 already. His daily life is probably has him at a 5 or a 7, just the stress of his own existence. So any type of bullshit that you bring to him, you're not leaving him any room to really respond to you. You're only leaving room that he's at a 7 and I'm giving you a 10. You're literally giving him only 3 degrees. So if you have an attitude, that's an 8. You disagree with something he says, now you gotta fucking be right about it. That's a 9. So just in the base habits that a lot of young women have. Try to move on with their day. They have no value for what he says. He's already at an 8 or a 9 with you now, and you haven't even got to discuss what you're talking about now. He already can't stand you. He already does not want to be around you. He already doesn't want to engage with you, and all he did was say hi to you. He's already at a 9 at your presence. There is no room to have a discussion with you if your presence alone brings a man from a 5 to a 9. Because that means that you as a person are dysfunctional. You as a person are combative. You are a fucked up dysfunctional individual by yourself before you introduce a man into your life. So I don't know why you would introduce a man in your life, because you are the man in your life if you act that way. It's dysfunctional. You're already in imbalance as a woman then. You're already going through trauma yourself as a woman then, because you had to have gone through some shit to get to that point. For you to really feel like you're about to sit there and disrespect and argue with a grown man who is bigger than you, who is stronger than you, you are one of the stupidest motherfuckers on God's fucking green earth. You're one of the dumbest fucking bitches on the fucking planet if you're going to sit there and disrespect and argue. He could literally kill you. And you're going to sit here and do everything it takes to make that happen. You hate yourself. You have to literally hate yourself as a young woman. And sadly, the women that I know that are in those situations, they do. They do have very low self-esteem. They do have borderline suicidal tendencies. They do have some kind of anxiety or bipolar or emotional disorder most of the fucking time, because there has to be something fucking wrong with someone who constantly, I get that you're going to have disagreements. You're going to have a difference of opinion. You're going to have a different perspective. You're going to have a different upbringing. If you ever want to have any hope of discussing that with a man, you need to take him then, if he's at a 7, because if he has a wound, if he has a mother wound, a father wound, if he's stressed out, he's probably already, and I just want you to take this mathematical example so you can use something rational, use something helpful to understand how to deal with men. Anything over a 5 to an 8, that's a shouting match. Any dude, that's a shout. Some men enjoy shouting at you, some men enjoy arguing with you, and some men don't mind taking it there. 9 or 10 is physical assault. A 9, he might shove you. A 9 or a 10, you're at the borderline of him putting his fucking hands on you and beating the shit out of you. This guy was in like a women's group or like a recovery group or something like that, and he talked about, oh, well, my girlfriend unplugged my PlayStation and I got beat as a kid for discipline, so then I beat her and it's like, dude, don't. If a woman brings you anywhere above a 5, get the fuck away from her. And that's all. That's like the best dating advice I could possibly give you. If you are with a woman of any sort, I don't care what your relationship to the woman is, if you are with a woman and that woman brings you above a 5, get the fuck away. Get her the fuck out of your life. Get as far the fuck away from her as you possibly can. Get the fuck away from her. No woman should bring you above a 5. No woman that is in your life, in your inner circle, should be making you angry. She's going to have criticism for you. She's going to have feedback for you. It's all just feedback. It's all just feedback. But no woman in your life should be provoking you, should be disrespecting you, should be doing anything in your life to make your life harder. If they are, you need to get them the fuck out of your life. That's first and foremost. Now, if you have off days, if you have issues, if you are that type of woman that just, you're always cantankerous and angry and bitter and resentful at life, go to fucking therapy. Get some fucking help. This shit's not normal to constantly be looking for a fight. Shit's not normal to constantly be looking for something wrong. Go to therapy and get some fucking help, Like, you are a miserable person already. You're going to make his life miserable. You're going to make your own life miserable. Get some fucking help. Get some fucking help. Where do you go from there as far as actually fixing your relationship? Well, again, that's why I'm giving you this framework. You can have a rational conversation from like a 2 to a 3 because you might have some japes, you might have some ideas about the other person's perspective, you find ridiculous, but you can talk about the idea being ridiculous. You don't start making ad hominem attacks, and that's when you get to a 4 or 5 territory. I would say if either of you are a 4 or 5, it's still not a good place to have a conversation. You're not leaving enough room for that conversation to just be a discussion and to just be a conversation. Once you enter that 3 to 4 territory, you're having a debate because there's obviously a disagreement. There's obviously a different of perspectives. There's obviously a difference of methodology going on here. Anything at a 3 or a 4 is already, so that's a healthy territory for a relationship to be at. That's having a couple spout. You might have to take 30 minutes, 90 minutes to walk away from, cool down, and finish having the conversation. At a 3 or a 4 is a normal spout. Best friends have spouts. They might get loud with one another. They storm off, but no one's threatening any violence. No one's threatening to hit each other. No one's fucking up the other person's life. 3 or a 4 is a healthy level to have a conversation at. Why? Because when a man gets at a 5 or a 6, and he starts getting louder, when he's doing that with another man, that's a warning sign that we are entering the territory of violence. When you start getting loud with a woman, a 5 or a 6 is enough, buddy. You don't got to put your hands on her. If you raise your voice at her, she's probably going to start crying and make you feel like a fucking asshole or a bad guy. That's why it's unnormal to be with a woman that's going to push you. Any woman that can see that you're getting angry and can see that you're getting frustrated and they keep prodding you and instigating and fucking with you, she's trying to send you to prison. She's either trying to send herself to the upper room to meet God or to meet the devil, or she's trying to send you to prison so you can meet Big Bubba. One or the other. She's provoking you. She's instigating with you. She's fucking with you. Any woman in your life that brings you above a 5 has no place in your life. You need to get the fuck rid of them. Any man in your life who brings you above a 4 as a young woman, I would say between a 4 and a 6 as a young woman, you need to seriously analyze yourself and go to therapy. Anything, a dude, 7 to 10 as a woman, this is because it's different. Like if a woman's at a 7, with another woman, that might be the end of the friendship. If a woman is at a 7 with a man, again, she's on the borderline between saying some shit that might get her head caved in and just walking away for 30, 90 minutes, having an apology, talking it over, having some hot cocoa, maybe having a glass of wine together, having a discussion, talking about what happened. And it's like you can't avoid the conflict. The conflict is inevitable. You don't plan for you should not plan for the conflict, I should say. You should not plan for the conflict. You should prepare for the conflict. You should prepare for the inevitability of conflict with each other. You should prepare for the inevitability that you're going to have disagreements. Prepare for the inevitability that you're going to have different perspectives. But I know even myself, if I'm at like a 2 already, she can feel and see. She may not mathematically know because everyone's different. Some people are very hot tempered and they go to a 7 or 8 really quickly, but it don't really mean much because they don't have they need to get to a 15 before there's some real action behind it. They're just loud, highly energetic, traumatized people. You know, other people might get to a 5 and they might lay your lights out. They might get to a 5 and they might hit you. They might put their hands on you. They might have a problem with you. So everyone's scale is a little bit different. I'm just trying to give you a range here. But I would say anywhere between a 0 is not a good place. I would say a 0 or a 1 is not a good time to bother someone either, because that's like a form. They're either sleeping or relaxing at a 0 or a 1. They're already having a good day. They're already doing their thing. They might have just woke up in the morning. A 0 or a 1 is also a terrible time to have a conversation because honestly, it's the 0 or the 1 that quickly turns someone to a 9 or a 10 because why the fuck would you bother me with that? You just completely flipped the scale on yourself because you already saw that they were completely relaxed, they were just doing their thing, and you brought some negativity into their life. That's why you need therapy too. That's why both people go to fucking therapy, not just one person. Both people go to fucking therapy. Individual therapy. Individual therapy, and then when your therapist suggests it, then you go to couple. You do not start off in couples therapy. You go to individual therapy. You work on your own shit. You fix each other first. You fix your own fucking life. You fix your own fucking issues. And you support one another in your recovery process. You support one another in your healing process. She needs to heal. He needs to heal. Both of you need to heal. You don't fixate on his trauma and use his trauma against him because he's never going to trust you again. You don't fixate and use her mistakes against her because she's never gonna listen to you or talk to you again. Both are human. So you have to take this in a very human perspective. The empathy that you develop for your partner, it needs to be a very human-based empathy because once you get to male or female and whatever schema people have for that, whatever their perspectives of being a man and woman are, you lose yourself in some completely different shit that she's a completely great wife, but she's not his definition of a woman. He's an amazing husband, but he's not her definition of a man. You know, the beautiful thing about that is no woman has a fucking right to anything to say what a man is. They need to shut the fuck up. No man has any position to say what a woman is. He needs to shut the fuck up. Worry about your fucking life. Worry about your own shit. Worry about the fuck you're doing. You know? And if you see some shit you don't like and how someone treats somebody else, you know, speak up, make noise about it, get out there with it. You know, like be forefront with how you feel. You know, do your thing and get out there with it. But don't feel pressed necessarily to just step in for the sake of stepping in. Again, if someone is drowning, I'm not saying if you saw someone fall into a stream, you should help them because they obviously did not mean to fall into that stream. If you see someone is rowing on a boat and a seagull comes along and takes their paddle, I'm not saying don't. If you saw exactly what happened, you understand what happened, and you're very familiar with the person's situation and they do want help, you should help them. You should help them. If someone is just fucking incompetent and completely ignorant and they're willfully belligerently, they don't want to know anything else. They don't want to see it any other way. They don't want to change their methodology. They don't regret when they do something wrong. Those are the people that you need to get far the fuck away from. Men, you need to get, if a man brings you to, if you're chilling as a woman and a man brings you to like a 7 or above, you need to get the fuck away from him because he's going to make you say something you regret. He's going to make you act in a way you regret. You're going to have a baseline of anxiety, a baseline of nervousness because if you're already at a 7 and you're already at a point where you might say something to regret him and you disrespect him, and if he's that type of person, that means he's already at a 5 or a 7. If he's bringing you up there, if you're just chilling, he had to come in at a 5, now you're at a 7. If you're at a 1 and he comes in at a 6, now you're at a 7. Know what I mean? That's how this works. So if he's at a 1 and you come in at a 9 over some shit that don't matter, now he's at a 10. Okay? So another side of this too is that you need to check yourself as well. So the first part of this is that if you see your man is already agitated, he's already frustrated, he's already angry, he's already stressed out, he's already within a mental state of mind that he can very easily hurt you. He can hurt your feelings or he can hurt your body. He can hurt you fight it. He's in a place where he can hurt you. You need to let him calm down. If he's at a 7 and you're at a 5, now you're at a 12. If he's at a 7 and you're at a 7, now you're at a 14, now you're both going to jail. That's how this works. So if he's at a 7, you need to come in maybe at a 2. And now you're at a 9, and you could start bringing it back down, but in reality, You need to go, people need to start coming to the approach that you need to start coming at it from a -5. If he's already at a 7, you need to come at it from a place where you're so chill and you're so calm. The world, there are fucking great balls of fire falling from the sky, and you're asking if you should go to the grocery store that day. That's when you have a woman who believes in God, she has that level of faith. She has that level of grace. She has that level of favor. And I think that's what most men want to call femininity, grace. Serenity and grace is what they see as femininity. Men have no place to talk about what a woman is. You don't know what it's like to be a woman. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. They don't know what the fuck it's like to be a man. Women need to speak for women and they need to check women. Men need to check other men in their lives and check the dumb shit men do. You know, women shouldn't have to come out and say it's wrong for men to cheat, so they're going to cheat. You know, it's up to other men to call other men out for cheating. It's up for other men to call other men out for being abusive, saying, like, hey, I kind of heard how you talk to your girl. You know, y'all going through something? Like, what's up with that? Like, that's just not cool with me, bro. Because if you talk to her like that, you gonna talk to me like that. If you talk to me like that, I'm gonna beat the shit out you. So that's already at 8 or a 9 right there. Now that dude has to, oh, no, 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 no. So this is an example of a guy having to come at a negative. You know, no, 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 man. We had a misunderstanding the other day. No, we don't gotta go through that. And watch him talk to his girlfriend better now that you said that. We can't be friends. You cheating on your girlfriend? We can't be friends if you cheating on your girlfriend, bro. If you cheating on your girlfriend, bro, it means you don't have no types of loyalty. You don't got no type of loyalty, bro. We can't be friends, bro. We can't be friends. Cut that shit out or get the fuck out of here. Nah, man. I'm just saying the girl had a fat ass. That's all. I ain't really wasn't even really fucking with the girl like that, man. I wasn't even really fucking with her like that. Watch how quickly men will change once other men start checking them. Other men start telling them to be more devout to the Bible or the Quran, to be more. When other men start checking you like that, and they have a place to check you like that, because it's going to result in physical violence. You know, other women need to check other women the same exact way, maybe differently. I don't know. Women can figure out that for themselves, but this is definitely a point of internal correction. You need to start coming from a place where you are soothing him. You're giving him serenity and grace. And I would also say, if he's a godly man, he's not going to be wanting to anger. If he's a godly man, he might get frustrated with you. He might bring up to a 4. He might be like, man, you bringing this shit up again? But he's not going to get to a point where he starts calling you out your name. He starts disrespecting you, making ad hominem attacks. He might even walk off on you just to maintain his peace. But he's not going to bring shit to a point where he's just about to fuck up your life on the basis of this one little minor conversation. So that's that too. I don't want to put all the pressure on the woman because it really should not be, but it's up to her to make it a home, not a battlefield. If she as a young woman is already at a 5, you don't really leave him a lot of room emotionally. He has to constantly be under a 2 or a 1 just to be around you. You got to find the coolest, calmest guy in the world, or you got to find like Haley and Haley and Jeff from American Dad. You got to find a stoner who is high 24/7, 365 to be a woman like Haley, where you're at like a 6 or a 7 or 8 all day long because you have all these fucking issues and political dramas in your head and all these problems with your parents and your father. That you got going on, that you got to find a guy who don't care about nothing. But then you complain about how he has no ambition. I would say most men that I know are probably walking around already at a 5 or a 7. When they look for a woman, they're looking for a woman to calm their soul, to soothe them. And it's like he might even get to, and that's the problem too, If he's already at a 5 or a 7, you need the ideal, perfect, passive, submissive woman because he's already at a 7. If she's at a 2, he still might fucking hit her. If she says, I don't feel like going there, yo, boy, you fucking women are this. she might feel like, oh man, I feel like it's a little cold in here. Always get complaining about something. You know, like, you know, that's its own level of fucking dysfunction. You know, both people need to bring themselves back a little bit. You need to leave room for disagreement. It's inherent. It's coming. It's inevitable. She's not going to agree with everything you have to say. He's not going to agree with everything that you have to say. That's one thing what you say, but I feel like a lot of these issues come down to I don't like the way that you dealt with me. And I feel like that's a little different thing. Like, because like sometimes a woman will say to me, well, I won't say a woman, I'll say my partner will say to me, I don't like the way you're talking to me. I'm like, I'm not talking to you any type of way. Shut the fuck up. But it's like, no, I don't like how you're dealing with me. I don't like how you are not talking to me, not necessarily the way you're talking to me. I don't like the way you are handling me right now. This is fragile. And you are sitting here tossing me around, dropping me down, kicking in the box and all. Like, this is fragile. You can't just be handling this or handling her any other way that you want to. When you're dealing with her, you have to deal with her like the box says fragile. It's fragile. You know, so if you're about to break something that's fragile, the owner's gonna be like, hey, fucking stop that shit right the fuck now, you're fired. It's not gonna be, if you break the shit, it's not gonna be oh man, it's no problem. You didn't know. It says fragile all over the box. It says fragile everywhere. It has instructions on how to deal with it. You either are fucking belligerently ignorant, or you don't know how to read and you're fucking stupid, or you're a fucking crazy person and you're abusive. But it says fragile. So you have to deal with her like she's fragile. You have to deal with her like you getting over a 5 might scare her. And that's real. If you're a young man, even if you're an older man, if you get above a 5, you might scare her. Especially if she doesn't really know you and that's just where you're at, because again, you're not leaving much room because you don't know what kind of day she's having. She might be at a 4 already. Now you're at a 9. Now both of you together, it's like you're already having a heated, conversation. It might be very passionate at first, but any form of disagreement to that point is going to result in conflict and result in issues because you're already meeting at such a high level. You're already meeting with both your fucking mindsets ready to explode and ready to combat and ready to defend yourselves. Or she feels as if she's in a place in which she needs to defend herself from you because anything that she says now can trigger you. Anything that you say, you've basically created a powder keg. You created like a hydrogen bomb, and any form of pressure can make the room explode. You need to focus then when you're a woman dealing with a man. Respect does not mean obedience like a puppy. Respect is a euphemism for politeness and manners. So having manners, having politeness is respect. That's all it is. It's not that difficult. It's not that hard. If you're with a woman who refuses to do that, again, you need to get the fuck out. You need to get her the fuck out of your life because you learn that shit in kindergarten. You don't learn that shit way later down the road in life. You learn that shit in pre-K. You learn that shit in kindergarten. You learn that shit in the first grade. If they don't want to do it, you need to get them the fuck out of your life. If he is a man and he doesn't want to show you politeness and mannerisms and kindness, you need to get very distant from him because you're not going to be able to re-educate and reteach him. If anyone is at that point where they feel comfortable disrespecting you, they are already so far gone in their mental illness, they're really just showing you how they treat themselves. Any mistreatment that you get from someone is reflective of the damage that is already inside of them. People can only treat you with what they're familiar with. They can only deal with you from what they know, and it may not necessarily be that they like what they know, but if all they know is abuse and mistreatment, the only way that they can treat you is with abuse and mistreatment. That's why healing is very important. If all somebody knows is arguing and yelling and screaming and cutting people off, it does not matter what the situation is going to be. The situation is always going to result in some type of bullshit like that. It's always going to result in some kind of extreme mental illness and some dramatic response with mental illness because they're wounded. And this is all to go full circle. Like, this person is already wounded. Okay? So if you're aware that she's already wounded, anything, if you're not there to heal that wound, you need to, one, call for help, for someone that does. You need to, two, you need to learn how to mend the wound if you want to be with her long term. Or three, the best you can do is just not make it worse. Okay? That's for young men dealing with young women. If she's already hurt, you don't need to hurt her anymore. If she's already had a hard life, you don't need to make. That's why it's better to just stay away from a lot of women. It's like some women don't want to date. Yes, they're very beautiful. Yes, they're very pretty, but they have their own issues. They have their own life. They have their own shit going on. They literally may not have any room for another person in their life because they're already at a 7 or an 8, and that has no room for you. They're going through something and they need to heal. If you're not going to be the type of human that is going to allow them to do what they need to do to heal, and you're going to criticize the healing process, control the healing process, manipulate the healing process, you're just kind of, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're preventing yourself from having a very healthy, very rich relationship with someone simply on the basis of what? What exactly? Simply on the basis of you already know that they are scarred and wounded and hurt, and you just kept fucking kicking them and they weren't strong enough to survive that, then you're the problem. I would say for men, for women trying to help a young man out, respecting his space and trusting him in his solitude is going to be the best bet. 'Cause as I had an argument rather recently, and I was just saying, like, a lot of women can't empathize with men. Like, a lot of you just don't give a fuck what we're going through. She got very offended, very mad that I said that. But it's the reality. It's the truth. Like, you as a woman have no idea what it's like to be a man, just as much as we don't know. You don't want me to tell you to shut the fuck up and stop being a bitch on your period. I don't want you to tell me to just suck it the fuck up and man up when I say you're disrespecting me. Because it's different if I have to do a disrespect from a random person that I don't know and I'm never going to see again. Am I really going to risk my life over someone who I don't know and I'm probably never going to see again? No, I'm probably not. If I have to live with somebody, if I have to cohabitate and coexist with someone, if I have to negotiate children over someone, I care way more about that. I have way more invested in the situation. It's like you're picking it up from any conversation about things not working out, going from a 3 where it probably should be. You know, if you're having conversations with your partner, I should say the best place for you guys to do is start, hey, I want to have a conversation. Maybe listen to some music, calm down, meditate for a bit, and then when you're ready, we can discuss it. It might be a little hard to talk about, so if we don't finish talking about it today, let's just leave it off on a good note. We can pick it up tomorrow, and maybe if we need to take a break or something, watch a movie and talk about it later, we can do that. That's what you need to do. Start at a 3 at least. Start at a 2 or 3, 4. If it's a really big situation, you might be starting at a 4 or 5. So if you're already dealing with something that you already know is very important to the person, you're already dealing with their triggers, you already know they're probably going to be set off by what you're saying, then I would highly recommend that you probably just let them talk. If the other person is already at a 7 or an 8, if the other person is already at a 9 or a 10, if the other person is already very angry and very livid with you, the best thing that you can do is probably freeze response. I know it's a traumatic response, but you can't fight them. You can't run away from them. And if they're not acting properly, you can't fawn them either. You can't people please and try to make them happy and try to soothe them just because they're yelling and screaming in your face. You should just freeze and just let them vent it out. Let them talk. Don't incriminate yourself. Don't endanger yourself. Don't make the situation any worse for yourself. Just absorb it like a sponge. Or I wouldn't even say absorb it like a sponge. I would say just let them talk so they can heal themselves. Let them get it all out so they can finally feel heard and understood. And then you can ask questions. And then when you do that, you're letting them vent out the like a tea kettle. You're letting them vent out that anger and frustration, so it's not bottled up anymore. Anytime someone randomly seems like they're going from a 5 to a 10, or they're going from a 3 to a 7 or a 3 to a 9, they were already bottling up a lot, and they might be presenting at a 5. They might be presenting at a 2, but they've been bottling up their emotions for so long that when their emotions finally set out, you're dealing with a 15, you're dealing with a 20, you're dealing with a 30 out of 10, you're dealing with a 30 out of 5, and you could be in danger. When someone's talking to you about their trauma, they're talking to you about their childhood experiences, and it's not pleasant, and you start arguing with them, you might end that relationship because they're in a very vulnerable place, and their reaction is probably going to be fight or flight. And if they're not in a position, if they're the main one speaking right now, they're probably in a position in which they're going to fight you. And now you're having an argument based off your lack of empathy because now you don't like this person calling you a scumbag, douchebag, asshole because they just poured their heart out to you and you didn't fucking listen, versus just fucking shutting the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up sometime. Not only your emotions matter, everyone's emotions matter, but if someone is actually genuinely going through something, if your boyfriend is genuinely going through something, just listen to him and don't disregard what he has to say. If your girlfriend is genuinely going through something, just listen to her and don't disregard what she has to say. The best thing you can do if you really want to solve the problem in the long term or the midterm is that you have to give them space to either feel comfortable enough to talk to you, or you have to give them the space and give them the position in which they can explain and educate you about what is going on in their life. Because otherwise, even if you wanted to solve the problem, you wouldn't be able to solve the problem. It wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. If you both are dedicated to disagreement and you're dedicated to dysfunction and not understanding each other, you know, then you're going to have issues regardless. You're going to have to consider getting the fuck away from each other. But I hopefully now that you have this perspective coming from a dude on how to deal with men, and I guess for young men how to deal with women, you need to get into a habit of either let him know to begin with that you're going to want to talk to him so he can ground himself a little bit more. He can prepare himself for the conversation a little bit more and tell him what you want to talk about. What a lot of women do is like, oh, we need to talk later. It's like, oh, what do you want to talk about? Oh, I'll tell you later. It's like, no. Like, that's super manipulative. That is super unhealthy to do that. And you're going to leave that person sitting there thinking about what the fuck you want to talk about. And then you don't want to talk about shit. You want to talk about some bullshit. At least let them know what you want to talk about so they can have in their mind, they can be emotionally prepared and ready for that, and that you can come to it from a mutual playing point. The only reason why you would do that is that you want the upper hand and you don't want to give them any leverage to respond to you. You don't want to give them any leverage to have a proper response to you. You want to gaslight them. You are trying to get them to have an emotional reaction, or you're going to force them into a position where they can't have a reaction at all because you're already at a 9 or a 10 and you refuse to tell them that when you were at a 7, you refuse to say something when you were at 5, now you're at a 9 or a 10, and now you don't feel like telling them what you want to talk about before you lay into them. You just want to get them alone, get them quiet, and fucking blow their head in emotionally and psychologically, or catch them off guard with it. If you are a young woman dealing with a man and the man is constantly at a 7, you need to give that man some distance. I don't care how cute he is. I don't care how much you like him. He's dangerous to be around. Any disagreement that you have with him, any problem that you have with him, it is probably going to result in physical violence because he is not in an emotional place. He is not in a mental place to handle another human being in his life. And that's why a lot of women avoid the grand majority of men. They avoid the grand majority of men because if you had a disagreement with him, you have to worry about him hitting you. You have to worry about him cursing you out. If you give him rejection, you have to worry about what he's going to say to you or how he's going to hurt you or him stalking you. If you give him a little bit of attention, you're worried about him fucking stalking you or some shit. You're never in a position in which you can have a healthy relationship with these guys because these men aren't in a healthy position to begin with. But if you're going to voluntarily have relationships with these men, be with these men, and date these men despite knowing that they are broken and hurt, despite knowing that they've gone through trauma and there's something fucking wrong with them, you need to be the type of woman who has serenity and grace, who can back up a bit. It's like, oh, he's coming in hot. And you can back up a bit, calm yourself down, and just listen. Because more than likely it has nothing to do with you. More than likely if you listen to him to some extent, it's gonna make him feel a lot better. And if he genuinely feels understood by you, you become a fucking superhero to him. If you can listen to what's bothering a man and what's on his mind and not make him feel like he's judging himself or make him feel like you're ignoring him, you become a superhero. If a man is talking to you and he feels ignored, he feels like he's talking to himself, you're signing your check out the door. I'm telling you the truth, man. If a man is like talking to you, being vulnerable, trying to have a conversation with you, and you make him feel as if it's almost worse than fighting in a way. Because at least if you're arguing with someone, you're listening to them, you're responding to them, you're reacting to them, and all this type of shit. But that's not what men want. They want to feel listened to, they want to feel understood. Women want to feel loved and they want to feel wanted. Men want to feel understood and they want to feel safe. If a man does not emotionally feel safe with you as a woman, he's going to keep a great distance from you. If a man doesn't feel, I'm sorry, if a man doesn't feel understood by a woman, he's not going to have any place in his life for you at all. He's going to find excuses not to have you in his life. He's going to find reasons and purposes not to be around you. Because it's like there's no point of even discussing anything with you. There's no point of even talking to you because you're not going to understand him. So there's no point. There's no sense of having a relationship with you. There's no sense in discussing anything with you because you're either going to purposely misunderstand on purpose and use it against him, or you don't have the empathy to put your own feelings and emotions aside to just relate to what someone else is going through. And that's an equally tragic experience, to be honest with you. I can't really speak for women. If a man is putting his hands on you or threatening to put his hands on you, get the fuck away from him. Get your cousin on him. Get your father on him, anything like that. If he's threatening physical violence or he's committing physical violence, get some men in your life to handle him, to talk to him directly. Even if he's just raising his voice at you or something like that, there's no place for the two of you to be yelling at each other. There's no place for the two of you to be arguing with each other, to be insulting each other. There's no place for any of the dysfunction. Because for either of you to have those habits already, you already have gone through trauma. You've already gone through a negative habituation, a negative socialization process that made you greatly dysfunctional already. So from this moment forward, there is no room for you to argue. If he's upset already, you need to shut the fuck up until he's calmer, or else you can get hurt. I don't care what a man should or should not do. A woman should not be yelling and screaming in a man's face. There's no place for that. You need to be the type of woman who can calm him down, who can kind of rein him back in, reel him back in. You're getting a little hot there, buddy. You're getting a little hot there. That's why men like funny women. They like women with personalities, so they could crack a joke or something. And he's like, "Oh man, okay, I'm being too deep. I'm going crazy with it, whatever." But you need to be the type of woman who can rein herself back in first and foremost. But when he's getting into those modes and he's getting emotional and he's getting into a place in which he's getting louder than you, he's getting frustrated with you, he's getting stressed out by you, you need to just listen. And it would make your life so much better. It would make his life so much better without disregarding what he's saying, without arguing with him, without having to go back and forth and bicker. Just listen to what he's saying and say, "Okay, thank you, dear. Okay, thank you. I didn't see it that way. I appreciate you saying something. Oh, I didn't notice that. Okay, cool." Don't call it mansplaining or any of this other type of shit. Like, just make him feel genuinely heard. Make him feel genuinely listened to. And that is the key to a man's heart. If you do that, he'll do all the cooking. He'll buy you the food. He'll do whatever the fuck you want. You may not even have to fuck him at that point in time. If you can make a man feel listened to and you can make a man feel understood, that is the key to his heart. Because a lot of those crazy fucking psychotic bastards, they really just want a woman who sees the dark side of who they are and is still willing to see that he's a good father and is willing to see that he is still a caring, loving person. He can definitely be a fucking Kodiak grizzly bear who's ready to murder someone, but he can also be Baloo. He can also be Winnie the Pooh. He can be both. If Baloo wanted to have a fair fight with you, Baloo's gonna win. If Baloo wanted to really box with the fucking tiger, Baloo could box with the tiger if he really wanted to box with the tiger. That's why the tiger wasn't fucking with Baloo. You know. But just because he is Baloo, just because he is what he don't act like he's not a bear. Just because he's choosing to be permissive, he's choosing to be patient, he's choosing to be nice, don't forget that that is still a wild animal. And I think that's where a lot of women fuck up with men. We are humans, yes, but humans are animals. If you keep fucking with a dog is going to bite you. If you keep fucking with a cat is going to scratch you. If you keep fucking with a chimpanzee, however, the chimpanzee is going to rip your face off. Humans are closer to chimpanzees than we are to dogs or cats. Good day.